Going live. Okay. Okay. And then I'll just share this link to the folks on Messenger so they can also share it to others, and then we are starting. Live stream. Then I'll also, to the folks already in the room, I'm also sending you on chat the link to the live stream. Maybe you can share this to your friends. Okay, so we are live now, and let me just turn off chat. All right. Okay. Okay, I'll just play the video one loop, and then we can start. All right. Okay. All right. Oh no, I didn't share my screen, did I? I was just looking at it. Okay, anyway, let's start this show. And so we are now live, and welcome everyone to Work from Home Pythonista. Thank you so much for coming here today. We are your hosts, Matt
and Mickey. We're both members of the Python Philippines Board of Trustees.
and our guest for today. Oh, maybe wait, sorry, before I even get to that, Miki, why don't you
Yeah.
explain what Work from Home Pythonista, what the show is all about?
Work from Home Pythonista is a monthly webinar talk show series where we interview Pythonistas representing various roles and industries to give people in the community an insight of what a typical day looks like. So we typically showcase Pythonistas who think how Pythonistas think outside of the box while being inside the comforts of their own homes or maybe a digital nomad setup. So we like to think of this show as showcasing Pythonistas and their craft at home and beyond. So the format for the show is first after introducing Iqbal, we're gonna have a virtual tour of the speaker's work area and at home or wherever he works and tools, and then the talk show. The talk show will just be a Q&A with the host. So Matt, do you wanna introduce Iqbal?
All right, so our guest for today is hello. Can
Oh,
can you all
Matt
hear me?
ulit. Here.
Am I?
Uh, since Matt is not here yet, I'm gonna introduce Iqbal. Um, so our guest for today is Iqbal. He's we consider him a good friend. We met each other in 2016 at PyCon APAC in Korea. That's not the formal introduction, but I got too excited. Sorry. So Iqbal has been a resident of Japan for the past 20 years. He's the founder and CEO of LaLoka Labs. His previous company, Xoxzo, was acquired in 2021, which he still currently serves as COO. Um, his Python journey started in 2002 with version 1.2 when he started working at Yahoo Japan. Wow. I just started using Python at 2.7, version 2.7. He co-founded PyCon JP and PyCon Malaysia. And his role is also with Trademarks Working Group, the diversity and inclusion working group of the Python Software Foundation. Yeah, that's a lot. Outside of work, he likes to run, travel, watch movies, write stuff, spend time with friends, and discuss politics, economics, and read books. He can communicate in three languages fluently and is basic in one. So I'm guessing one of those languages where you speak fluently is Malaysia and in Japan. Iqbal has been to Manila once and was invited on stage us his good friends and fellow compatriots within the Python community. We feel the same way. That's why I got too excited. So I'm not I'm gonna now gonna give the floor to Iqbal so he can show you his work from anywhere setup. It's not work from home; it's work from anywhere, and then also his presentation. Um, okay, Iqbal.
Thank you, Mickey, and thank you, Matt. I hope Matt is still around, or have we lost him? I hope my
He's
connection is
gonna go
fine.
back later.
Okay. I hope my connection is
Yeah, I can
fine.
hear you properly.
Okay, thank you. So, folks, thank you again for inviting me. It's a pleasure, and it's actually something that I've been looking forward to, meeting up with some dear old friends, and then hopefully we can make some new ones, even though it's just going to be online today. But this is currently the world that we live in, and hopefully in the nearer future we will be able to meet each other again in person. So let me just share my screen with my slides, and I can start with the contents that I have prepared for today. Share screen. For some reason, I can only seem to share my desktop. Okay. Mickey, what do you see right now?
I can see your slides.
All right. I think I only have this up. Okay, just Okay, the slides. Okay. Can you still see my slides?
Yeah, I can see it properly.
Okay, thank you. Right, so let's start. Thank you, everyone, for the thank you, Vicky, again for the introduction. So this will be the contents that I prepared for today. A day in the life of work from home. Sorry, let me phrase that: work from anywhere. Pythonista. I believe not many of you know me. I think just looking from the attendees that we have on Zoom, I've only personally met Mickey, perhaps Allison, if I remember. There was Sonny just now and Matt before he went offline. So let me just introduce myself and what I do to you, a quick background. So who am I? So as Mickey has mentioned, I'm the CEO and founder of LaLoka Labs, which was just, we just started this last year following the acquisition of Xoxzo. Xoxzo was acquired last year around October. Before that, I was the CEO for Xoxzo, but after the takeover, our parent company wanted to have their own CEO in place, so I moved to the position of operating officer. My career started in 2001, right after college, and I used Python the first time in 2002. This was when I was in Yahoo. We used 1.5.2, Vision 1. I still remember that, and it was mostly nearly all the time was only for ops. SSHing into a particular server and then running all these scripts that actually monitors and manages it. Basically, a lot of automation. My involvement in the community began in 2010 when I went to the first PyCon APAC in Singapore. I've worked for business, of course, and professionally, and also in community work. And I don't have a very strong separation between these two, so there's a very blurry line, and everything that I do, whether the only separation that I have is actually stuff that I do personally, as a hobby, or stuff that I do at home, like cleaning the house, those kind of things, and the rest. So the rest includes community work and also what I do for a living, and everything else other than personal stuff. For what we do in the LaLoka Labs, so just a little bit of a short pitch of the company. So LaLoka Labs currently, the group LaLoka Labs have two main products. One is called GetOTP, which is a multi-channel OTP verification API. This was based on the issues that we saw our customers had when we were in Xoxzo. And another one which was just acquired this year in April actually is AI content and writer called Kafkai. So if you have any interest in any of these two topics, you can just go to our website lalokalabs.co, and there's links there, and then you can read more on those later on. So the session for this, I think there's a series, right, which Python PyCon, the Philippines Python community started, which is called Work from Home. Pythonistas, introducing the setup and also interviewing the people who's working from home, the Pythons working from home. I don't really fall into a work from home category because it's not really at home where I mostly work. It's basically anywhere, and we've been working anywhere since 2007. So I've taken, when in the past when we were still really able to travel, I had this sort of like thing of bringing my laptop around and just opening it up and doing work whenever I feel like it. So I took the opportunity to take pictures at all these different kind of places wherever I was at that particular time. So if you can see here in my slide on the left side, this is the Malayon in Singapore.
The Merlion.
Malayon, yeah. I don't remember what year this was. Anyway, so on the next of it to the right, is this is Mont Saint Michel in France actually. So it's in the it's the western side of France. It's a monastery surrounded by sea, and when the tide is low, you can see it's on land, but when the tide is high, it's basically just covered by the sea. So it's a pretty nice place. Next to it is Kingakuji, the golden temple in Kyoto. This was summer 2000. I also can't remember this one. And next to it is Sagrada Familia in Barcelona. Maybe this was in 2009, 2017 perhaps. Maybe it was the first time when I went to Barcelona. Next to it is the Golden Gate Bridge. So that's Meg Rogers in San Francisco. And the last two are actually my favorite. So the top one is next to the Malacca River in Malaysia. So this is the city of Malacca. And the bottom one is in Istanbul, Turkey. If any of you folks have not been to Istanbul before, I've been to quite a few places in the past 10 years. Istanbul still stays pretty close to my heart. It's a very beautiful city. The food is nice. The people are too friendly, and it just so happens because of the difficult economic situation that they are currently having, which I think a lot of us around the world, but they started pretty much before what we're seeing right now. Their currency fell, so I think it's actually pretty good value for money if you want to go and visit Istanbul right now. So I would really suggest, if you've never been there, please try to visit Istanbul. A picture also which is close to my heart and contains a lot of history. This is in PyCon APAC, Seoul 2016. So happens to be the first time that I met with Vicky and Matt for the first time. You can see nearly, so from the left we have from Japan, we have Korea, we have Ewa. She was still the executive director at the time. If you don't know Ewa, she was the executive director. Now I think she left this year to do something on her own. I think she's doing a startup right now. And there's Matt, there's Mickey. I think this is someone from PyCon KR. There's Ben Kiat, who actually started the first PyCon APAC in Singapore. There's Matt Lewis. And there's I can't call this. Oh, this is bad. Okay, so our good friend from PyCon KR, Terara Sang, and then I think to the left of myself, these are all PyCon Taiwan, and then Takanori Sang on the right, on to the most leftmost of me. Sorry, now remember Kwang Hee. Yes, Kwang Hee from Korea. Yeah, okay, he helps a lot on, also help me manage PyCon APAC right now. And a few more
these are
pictures.
still
Sorry?
These are still the people who attend the PyCon APAC organizers meeting, right? Almost all of them.
Almost all of them, yeah. But unfortunately, for example, Matt Lewis, right? He's not really not active anymore. And I don't see anyone from PyCon Taiwan who's currently right now active with us on this picture, or if memory fails me. So this is basically just history. This is basically it's a piece of history where a lot of us is moving on to other stuff right now, and I will talk about this maybe later on if anyone was interested in it. But let me just move on to my next slide. So these are slides from the various PyCon in Southeast Asia. So in 2016 we had PyCon Mai. In 2018 in PyCon Tish, this was I think the first time Thailand had their own PyCon, was in 2017. PyCon Indonesia 2018, and of course PyCon Philippines. This was in Manila in 2018. I don't have a picture of PyCon APAC that I could fit in here of 2017 in MY, which I was the chairperson. And obviously, the most important one was PyCon APAC Singapore. So I've been to PyCon Singapore a few times. The first PyCon APAC in Singapore was in 2010. I couldn't find a good picture of it. So it should be here in the middle, but unfortunately I don't have one. So I'll skip that. To give a context of what you'll be, to make it easier for us to understand what I'll be talking about later on about my work from home setup and my daily tasks and stuff. So let me just give a few context, a context of what I do as a role professionally. So in a nutshell, my role as the CEO or running of a small business, right, is looking at the big picture of stuff, how the business can move forward, how the product's helping our customers, and how do we connect the dots later on with what we're building and with what our customers want us to do, and also with our own vision of ourselves. Remove roadblocks that the team is having so that everyone can do their work as best as possible. Spread awareness about stuff. This can be things like in terms of like sales or marketing to our customers, but it can be also internal to our own team members. Okay, this is what we want to do. This is the current trend, for example, and this is what we shouldn't be doing or we should be doing. So to spread awareness around, create opportunities internally and externally for people to become the best version of themselves and to produce the best work that they can do, right? Taking all that, contributing it back to the community. This can be in many ways. For example, knowledge, like knowledge sharing, time, to take time to actually do something for the community, like managing PyCon APAC, for example, and then helping people to connect to each other. Also, obviously, monetary, giving open source grants, which we did when we were in Xoxzo, to open source projects. Finally, after doing all that, to just take a step back and let it all connect and let them do their magic. So this is what my role requires me to do, and this is how I do it. Just 4 things. I have to read a lot of stuff. I have to write a lot of stuff. Meet people, like what I'm doing right now, like the PyCon APAC meetings, obviously meeting with clients, potential clients, partners, meeting people that would like to join us, and finally deciding, okay, how do we move forward after doing all this. Tools of my trade, and perhaps a bit more that I use throughout my daily work and community work. I use a lot of email. So these are all just basic stuff. I think there's nothing special or extra to it. As you see, I only basically do 4 things. I read, I write, I meet, and I decide. So email is, I guess, the biggest tool. Processing corresponding to email itself, just from the top of it, calculation takes like a quarter of my daily working time. So I use Google Workspace, and I think a lot of people on this call are also familiar with it. I heavily use the snooze and create task buttons on the email, so that will help me remind me the actions that I need to take or the emails that I need to look back into. Nearly all the time, there's not a single thing that you need to do right now, right away. So some emails or some actions can be taken like later on during the day. So deciding on what needs to be done right now or what can be done later on is pretty important and affects how I do my work efficiently. So these tools help me do that better. And then I put stars to specific emails, which is important, but I won't be able to recall back like keywords for it, which I need to if I want to refer to it later. calendar. And calendars are specifically used for me to block time for meetings. So I don't use calendar to block time for me to do work processing, right? No, it's very specific to just meeting people. So usually there's going to be, if I'm not available, I will block time if I'm not available for a meeting, or if I want to invite someone who to a call, to a meeting. So I use Google Calendar for this. At the top there, you can see this is a busy week for me, and the bottom calendar is an example of what I aspire to be. So I will have a lot of free time there, which is unblocked. An ideal week for me is just maybe 2 or 3, at most 3 hours of block meeting time. But having said that, the role that I do requires me to do a lot of context switching between different tasks, and it's like 10 minutes doing something and then cut it off, and then 10 minutes doing something else, and 15 minutes there, 15 minutes here, take a break for like half an hour, continue doing 15 minutes here and there. So that's a typical working day for me. Another tool that we use, well, I use a lot, I guess the rest of the team also uses, is chat. So we've been working from anywhere basically, right, since 2007. So it's not something new to us. When we started off, there wasn't chat tools such as Slack. I think IRC was still quite used at the time. So between me and the team, we use a lot of emails and also Skype. I think it was Skype, a Skype chat. But now we have all these chat tools. So we use Google Chat. We've tried using Slack. We've tried using other chat tools. But in the end, Google Chat is free and has no restriction, comes with the subscription for workspace. So this is what we're currently using now. It's what we call middle level priority channel. It's used for quick one-off internal communications. And I try to use a lot of discrete tasks. So, excuse me. So when there's something which just quick question that I want to check whether something has been done, or hey, did we remember to do this, or what do you think about that? Then I'll just put it on Google Chat. The company, how we work is what we call asynchronous first. We didn't have this term 10 years ago, but it's sort of something that we do. So it is pretty much impossible for you to have synchronous communication, right? Like what we're having right now when you're working from anywhere. Number one, because we are not physically in the same space time, and number two, because of the time zone differences. So our team members can be from a +5 time zone to a +9 time zone. So there's a lot of difference between time zones. So we can't expect everyone to be responsive at the same time. So chat is a very important way for us to communicate the small stuff. But because of the quick, going back and forth, we might lose what the action items, the to-dos that we need. So the create task is pretty useful to help us, put it down somewhere so that we can come back later. Another tool, so this is what we call it. It's Plum. It's actually a project named Plum. This is actually a task tool, right? And we have been using a lot of task tool, tools that try to help us manage our tasks. So, well, there was Slack, and then we were using Jira, and then there was also Trello, and then there was Unfuddle, and there was all this other bunch of tools that we tried to use, but for some reason or the other, it never really satisfy our needs. We've gone through this back and forth, and moving tools from one tool to another is a very painful process. the main reason why we actually have tasks is not really the fact of managing them and like what we have to do. That, I mean, you can actually just do that with like Google Chat and also the create task thing, or just write a Google Docs document and do check boxes. That is still possible. But we figure out after all these years that the reason why we need to have a task tool is actually to allow us to remember back what we have done and why we have done something in the past. So the discussions and the decisions and the references that we need to have all of those into a single place. GitHub is good for repositories. We use that, but unfortunately, it's not a good enough tool for non-developers. So we can't force people to use these. There's also other requirements, like how do we look at the big picture and the connectivity from different tasks, which all these other tools seems to fall short for us. So we decided to create a new tool from scratch, which we call Plum. And this is the Plum interface. We can talk about Plum later on a bit, but this is one of the main tools that I use to manage the team too and things that we need to do. Other apps that I use, okay, so there's this thing called digital Welding. If you're using an Android phone, I'm not sure from which version. I guess if it's pretty recent, then you should have this. So I looked into this out of curiosity, and it tells me that I use my phone for 2 hours and 48 minutes per day. This is, fortunately for me, I'm happy to report that this is less than the average of the worldwide population. I think if I did a quick Google search, it says that on average, someone, an adult is like 3 hours or 15 or 20 minutes, I think, of screen time on their mobile. So you can see here the tools that I use most on my phone. Twitter, a big portion, and then there's Chrome, which is basically the browser, Google, which is the search, and the Gmail, and then there's a bit of Slack, and then Duolingo, LinkedIn, and others, which I can't recall what that would be. So for work apps, there's the 3 main things that I use. LinkedIn, to connect with people, and sometimes when I do hiring, recruiting, LinkedIn is also a good place to start. There's also Slack, which now we don't use for Xoxzo uses a lot of Slack, so that's what LaLoka Labs don't use Slack. On the other hand, there's also this bunch of communities which I'm sort of involved in, which has Slack channels on them. I personally try to avoid adding Slack into everything that I get involved with. Try to limit that. And there's Twitter. So Twitter, I use it to get a lot of information, and also to follow trends, news, and also to push marketing materials out to the public. Other than work apps, so there's these 3 main ones, the recreational apps that I've written down there. To the left side, like the bird picture, that's Duolingo. I use this to learn Spanish. I've been using Duolingo for straight 1,000 over days right now, 1,100 days, I think. Or yeah, about 1,000 over days right now. So it has actually made me improve my Spanish. It actually works. But you need to do it every single day. Every day, maybe I spend around 15 to 20 minutes on Duolingo. There's also a bunch of other languages which you're interested in. So there's Japanese on that. There's also Korean, which I am also a bit of learning. I'm learning a bit of it. There's Esperanto, I think, Esperanto. Sort of like a new language. If you've never heard of it, it's a new language created, but it's interesting, the history of it. So maybe if you have time, we can look into that. On the right of it is this app called Crossrope. So Crossrope is an exercise app for jumping rope, right? So they sell jump ropes, and also the app that allows you to access all these programs. Do you want to do jump rope for strength, or do you want to do jump ropes for speed? And there's a lot of like these programs you can follow. When I cannot run because of where I am, so we travel a lot. When we were traveling a lot, so I used to bring my jump rope around, and I can do jump rope because it doesn't take a lot of space. I can do it on the rooftop of somewhere, or just on the side of a park. So it's one of the exercises that I enjoy doing. It's good for cardio, and also helps you build some dexterity skills, right? You can do all these tricks, which is kind of fun. On the right side of that is Fitbit. If you're not familiar with Fitbit, it's an app that also, they have this thing, a wearable watch which tracks your heartbeat all around, keeps data for you to refer back to, and then tracks your sleep, so how well you're sleeping, or how much exercise you're doing, right? So these are basically the main apps that I use. My gear when I travel. So this is basically everything that was in my bag. I think 2 weeks ago when I traveled to this tech meetup in Karuizawa, Nagano. So there's a folding fan. I think these are all from the left side. So I think it goes from left to clockwise to the top, right? So there's a folding fan if it gets hot, pens, of course, for me to write stuff, business card to pass around to people. I believe not many people bring around business cards now. So it's either you just show me your LinkedIn, or I hear now that the trend is to have QR codes. But anyway, I still have two business cards, and if you are dealing with business people in Japan, business card is still a thing.
They use a lot of business cards.
Yeah, yes. And then so there's this power cables and adapters. So I don't have cables for the actual power cable for my laptop, which is a Dell. I just bought something off the shelf. It's the adapters for it. Obviously, there's also the adapters for LAN and HDMI if I need to make a presentation. So it's there on the top of the laptop. I'm using a Dell Express 13 laptop with Ubuntu 2004 LTS. It's not dual boot, so it's just only Ubuntu on there. I have not used Windows, the most common operating system, right? Windows for maybe 10, 10, 12 years, 15 years now. macOS, I've only tried it twice. It just didn't feel right with me. So Ubuntu seems to be the best. Before this, I was using like different.
Oh, really? That's the first time I heard a CEO say that he's using Ubuntu and not a Mac.
No. It's the ecosystem of macOS don't really fit with me. This is obviously my personal choice. I don't have anything against that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't want to start a war or anything.
Yeah.
People can go really ballistic about this, but it's just not for me. So I did buy a Mac, the small Mac, I think Mac Air or something, but I just can't figure it out. My wife, on the hand, swears by Mac. Right, so she says that Mac is the best and everything. She has iPhones and stuff, but it's just not for me. And to say this, right, since you mentioned that it's the first time that you heard us like a CEO or someone running a company using Ubuntu, not using a Mac, you can do your work on Ubuntu. For the past 15 years, I've not had any issues of doing my work. I've done programming, do stuff like presentations, yes, mails, chat, everything. Running a company on Ubuntu is totally possible. So if you're thinking of saying that Ubuntu doesn't work, you can't do this or that, well, you might be mistaken, because I'm able to do that. So anyway, moving on. So a thermos bottle. It is actually quite difficult to get warm water. Cold water is pretty easy to find, but warm water is pretty difficult. So I try not to buy the plastic bottles, right? So bring water from home before I leave, or before I leave the hotel room. I even have it here right now. There's also an E4 file for me to put in documents, canvas shopping bag if my bag is not big enough to put in stuff, or when I go shopping for groceries or anything. Hand sanitizers, wipes, and masks. So these are actually something relatively new in my bag, started since 2020, right, when the pandemic started. Small notebook. Writing things down is still the best way of trying to remember stuff and try to put your ideas together, at least for me. Breath means when I feel sleepy or before I go into important meetings. There's also a Bluetooth mouse and earphones. Colorful markers for me to mark stuff that I've written down, and a calculator, which what you have on the Android phone is just not good enough. It's like when you want to calculate consumption tax, this tax, a lot of percentages, a plain calculator, which is not mobile, really makes a difference for me. Okay, daily views is something which I basically see every day in the course of my day. This is my workstation at home, the top left, right? So from top left, and then we go clockwise to the right. You see it's pretty messy, so I have all things all pasted on the wall. If you have time, you can try to zoom in and try to see. I've written the passwords to the universe in one of the post-its there, so maybe you can try to figure out what this password is. I don't have any much use of it anymore. So that's my setup. This is actually a cupboard originally when we bought our current apartment. So it's cupboard. So I've decided to take away the doors and put the plank right there. Use two screens. So the one screen usually I use just for Google email, for email, and the rest is for like all the other stuff that I need to do. On the right side is next to it. On the right side, moving on the right side is our local Starbucks, which sometimes I just go out to have some fresh air. And then on a good day, to the right of it, on a good day, Newbie Park, where I like to do work under the sun. This is not really recommended right now because of the summer. It can get pretty hot, and the glare of the sun really makes it difficult to see what's written on the screen, right? What's on the screen. But I try to make it a point to get some sunlight, especially during the pandemic of last year and well, this year. To the bottom of it, that's the Shinkansen actually. So this is a picture I took around 2 weeks ago when I went on a short trip to the tech meetup in Nagano Karizawa. So you can see, so that's my bag, my backpack, and the small suitcase that I use to stuff all my clothes and stuff if I want to stay overnight or over a few days outside from home. Next to it is the bunch of books which I have half read. One particular book which I would like to introduce to you folks listening in is A Gentleman in Moscow by Amor Tolls, which is the Black Book. It is a thick book, I think 600 pages if I
Sorry, what's the book?
The middle one, the third one from the top, A Gentleman in Moscow.
Oh, A Gentleman in Moscow. Okay.
Yes, this is a fictional book, but it's nice. It's a story of someone who during the period in Russia, Bolshevik Revolution, right? So he was sort of kind of not royalty, but the upper class, but because of his history, they not really locked him up, but they house arrest him in a hotel, so he can't go out of hotels, he'll be shot. So it is a story of his experiences in the hotel for 20-30 years, I think. Inside the hotel, the people that he met, the thoughts that he had, the things that he do. So after reading the book, I mean, in a short space of a hotel in a city, you can have this kind of stories. So Amatols, I think, did a really good job in writing it down. So it was a fun book to read. The rest of the books are like for work, right? So there's the Python for data analysis, which I think maybe some of you have read. So I've read that in parts. And then there's a book about JavaScript, which I wanted to know how to actually put some data out from the backend to the front end. There's also a book about statistics in Python. So that's the yellow one. And then there's about a book on Python AI, manipulating text using machine learning, using the BERT model. So that's the green. So this book, I'm reading it to understand better on how we can actually improve Kafka, one of our products. To the left of it, so moving on to the left of it, this is a small jungle garden. This is, I have nothing to do with this, but this is what Afiza pet, not pet project. So this is Afiza's dream. So my wife, she's into plants, and she decided to have a lot more greens in the apartment, and I think she has 57 or 60 different type of plants in the house. There's a sort of like if you see at the top there, this is sort of like a spotlight hanging, which turns on and off at specified times of the day to imitate sunlight for the plants, right? I enjoy looking at this when I'm at home. So having greens is good. Afiza spends maybe around 2 hours in the mornings on particular days of the week to water her plants. So she uses an app that tells her this type of plant need this kind of water at this particular time. So when that schedule hits its peak, sometimes she can spend around 2 hours in the morning just to make sure all these plants are watered and taken care of. Finally, the picture on the bottom left is just the laptop in another coffee shop, which sometimes I go near our neighborhood. So these are basically the views that I see in different times of the day on any particular day. And I think that is all that I have for my slides. So I will stop sharing this. I did not take too much time going through the slides. Mickey?
No.
Hello. Yay, Matt is back.
Yay.
Sorry about that.
Oh gosh, of all the times to have a technical issue.
Yeah, it usually happens when there's an important event.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, 15 years in IT. That rule never fails to happen.
That is technology for you, I think. They fail when you need them not to.
Anything that can go wrong will go wrong.
Well,
Anyway, so
yeah, I'm back, and yeah, thanks for sharing. Everything is like very, very interesting. I actually have noted down quite a few from what you've shown. Oh yeah, sorry, Mickey, you were saying something.
while Iqbal was sharing, I just remembered why one of the reasons why I got interested with the Python community because that this it's where I met people who are very entrepreneurial. Not all, the others are developers and technical people, but the other ones are very entrepreneurial, and I it's where I met people who are like whatever age they are, they do what they've always dreamed of, something like that. So, for example, Iqbal, I think the others are commenting they wish they could also do work from anywhere. That like when I was younger, that's one of my dreams, like become an entrepreneur. And I didn't know, but I just saw these people who are doing cool stuff. Uh, but unfortunately, I haven't done that yet. But just like seeing people who were able to do it. So I just want to ask the audience, is there anyone here who always dreamt of becoming an entrepreneur, or have you seen something from Iqbal's presentation that that's resonated with you? Yeah. If you're shy to answer, the audience, you can type your answers either in here in Zoom or YouTube. But while you are thinking of your answer, let me also ask Iqbal, what inspired you to become an entrepreneur, or when did it all start?
Um, it since college actually, but I did not have a clear. To be honest, I did not have like a very clear goal. Okay, this is what I want to do. This is how my life will pan out. So it's just something which I wanted to do. So what I do know at the time was that producing something, building something, producing something, and actually seeing people using it, trying, helping them solve their problems of doing something, and on top of getting paid for it, is actually something that really appeals to me. So it is different if you're working in a company, for example. That connection is kind of like blurred because you have all these uh, intermediaries, right? You don't really see it directly. You manage stuff, for example, you manage projects, so uh, you purchase the machines, you build it, but you don't actually uh, sell that particular product to that person. For example, if you're working in a factory. So I really feel strongly towards that. That also allows me to sort of like understand the value of what I can do and how I can help people. So it wasn't necessarily capitalistic in a sense, but more of
I understand.
right.
Not
So
necessarily for the money. Yeah.
yeah. Later on, though, after doing things on my own, I do understand the money side of it. So why is it important, right? Why is it important? Why does it? Um, how do you actually use it as a tool to leverage it to further whatever ideas or vision or even the state of life or the people that you want to help, right? So there are a lot of things which I've learned through the journey, and then I realized it's a good action actually, Mickey, because it makes me realize now. I mean, one of the reasons also is being an entrepreneur. I mean, starting a business. You don't have to be like a big entrepreneur or big startup. Even selling something by the by the roadside is a good enough entrepreneur. It allows you to, it forces you to learn many different things. Not only one specific thing, but a lot of things, and it opens up your view of the world. And I believe doing that allows you to become a better person in the end.
How about you, Matt? Do you have any questions? Does the audience have any questions for Iqbal? We can wait for your questions. How about you, Matt?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, um, one thing that has really fascinated me with the whole. I mean, I've known you uh for I've known you already, that you've already been like doing this whole like startup thing, managing a workforce already, like across different time zones. So this has always like fascinated me. Um, has it always been? Have you always done the work in this manner? Like, has it always been managing people remotely across different time zones? And how has this impacted like building the business in terms of, like having timely deliverables with your product, and then staying competitive, granted that like you are kind of like coordinating people from different time zones with their own, also expecting them to work on their own hours, and then just like coordinating afterwards. So
Okay, that is actually a difficult questions, and it's actually not just one question, multiple questions packed into one.
yes.
Right?
Yes, sorry about that.
But it's a difficult one actually. It's a difficult one, and it's understandable that we would want to know. This is a problem, and we still haven't solved it yet. What we do know though, that opening up our teammates right now, hiring different times, and we live in a world which there are no more borders, literally. So as a small company, we do not have the luxury of hiring the best people everywhere. So what we do is we try to find people who want to work with us, and we try to find the best among of that. Speed is slow because of the time zones, and because we don't have the cohesion that you would expect to have in a particular office. But from the start, I've came to a conclusion that there are certain things that if we want to follow this kind of work style, there are certain things that I cannot control, that we cannot control, and there are certain things that we can control. One of the things that we cannot control is the time that we work. It's impossible for you to do that because you're not in a particular office in a single space. So we forget about that. What we do is we try to cultivate the the cohesiveness by giving um, clear expectations and clear to-dos. For example, that is why one of the most important skills actually for you to work as a work from home or work from anywhere, Pythonistas or someone writing Java or whatever you're writing, is actually the ability to write very well. So
Communication skills.
communication skills, yes, but uh, writing skills. I want to be specific when I say communication skills equals writing, because that's all you have, text on the screen. People will read your message or your chat like 2 or 3 hours after that. So what do you expect this to happen? By when? What are the roadblocks? And then we discuss that. So that takes time, but it is doable. I am fortunate, so we are fortunate because we have our own products, which means that how we produce the timeline that we roll out new features are mainly controlled by us, and not so much as external factors compared to if you are working if you're developing for a client, for example, which has their own timeline which you need to adhere to. So that might be a different environment. But for us, we don't have that. So we have much more leeway on deciding how fast or how slow that we want to do stuff. I'm pretty, there are other things like sometimes one of us will feel not really will feel under the weather, or will have to go pick up their daughter from school, or have to attend parent teachers association. So those are the things that we take along as a stride it's not a problem for us. We already have our own targets, the things that we need to do by when. So we leave that to the actual team members, to the contributors to figure out, okay, how do we fit that around the schedule? We don't control the schedule. To anyone's listening, so if you do plan in the future to do something like this and you are in a position to manage people, I do understand that one of the most difficult things for you to do is to let go, because we are all pressed to be responsible to what we do. And by nature, it's difficult for us to let go of control. So I want it to be Dan here, but this is actually something that holds us back if we want to move towards a more distributed working style, which is what work from home and work from anywhere is. I hope it answers your question, Matt.
Yes, definitely, for sure. And I really like uh that last bit that you just mentioned. Because personally, this is something that myself, as someone who's also like transitioning from, or yeah, in the midst of transitioning from an individual contributor to someone who's now like managing my company's department, is exactly that. Like being someone who's an individual contributor who's kind of like, like you do things a certain way, and now you're kind of more like stepping back a bit and letting people do their own thing, do the same thing their own way. So so yeah, that's definitely one of the hurdles, or the well, mental hurdles that I kind of had to slowly get comfortable with. So so yeah, for sure. You've answered the question very well. Yeah.
So let me just clarify for the others. I think Iqbal was saying that you don't have to work synchronously, right? You can work asynchronously for as long as the goals as a team are set and the expectations are set. Okay. I actually heard that from the other teams as well. Um, yeah, good tip. There's a question here from Allison and Mr. Valdez. Matt, maybe you can read the ones from Mr. Valdez later, but I'll read the one from Allison now. I think just so Iqbal knows, there are quite a few people here who want to be entrepreneurs in the watching in the audience. Since you've been traveling frequently while the question is, since you've been traveling frequently while working long before the pandemic, how was it for you when the lockdown happened?
It was boring for me, to be honest. So now we can't travel anymore. One of the things that I like, as Mickey has during the introduction of myself, is I like to travel. Traveling is not only travel itself, but it gives you ideas, exposure to different ways of how things can be done by different people, different cultures, obviously. And in many ways, that has helped me realize some of the ideas that I have for our products. So it was it wasn't a good feeling having that cut off. But at the same time, it didn't affect much of how we worked because we have already all set that up since way before the pandemic started. So it was good in a sense that it showed us that what we're doing uh, is stable, is fine in terms of how the way that we work. So the pandemic also have shown to us that how we can't live online as much as we want to. The moment that you see the lockdown is lifted, everyone just went crazy, even in here, everywhere else. So it also showed that how we react to the restrictions that we had. Personally, also to myself, I think I handled it well, because I read a lot of the sciences behind it, the reasons why we should have this, what the virus is, how it spreads. Afiza, she's a scientist by training, so she helped me also to understand the scientific papers. So in that context, in that sense, it opened up a new way of me to read through information. So that's the not so good part, and also that's also the good part. I hope that answers your question, Alice.
Thanks, Alison, for the question, and thanks, Iqbal, for answering. Yeah, just a quick reaction on that. Yeah, what I actually realized during the pandemic, because Iqbal said, what we realized is that we can't as humans, we can't be online as much as we thought we could. I thought during the beginning of the pandemic, I said to myself, "Oh, I'm an introvert. I got this." But after a few, after like around the 3 or 6 months, now something's happening. Yeah, can't need to find another explanation for this. something something like that. How about you, Matt? Was it the same?
Well, I mean, for sure, I did miss going to the office at that time. We still had a physical office at that time, and then that got cut off. I missed it for a bit, but then like Manila traffic, not having to deal with that daily, so that kind of made the whole setup like bearable. Plus, um, but yeah, for sure, like I didn't realize that like all that introvert energy can also build up, and at some point you also need to kind of like start interacting with
There's
other
such a thing as
humans.
too much.
Yeah, for sure. Um, so I'll just segue to a question from Mr. Valdez. Um, So I think this is in the context of, how you manage your emails and email and correspondence, um, which personally I find that, like those are really good ways. I use those tools a lot as well, like starring things that I don't want to forget and then snoozing things. Um, I even go as far as like categorizing, like pulling, dragging all my emails to certain categories and labels, because as much as possible I want to see like a clean inbox. I don't know, maybe I'm just being anyway. So Mr. Valdez Mr. Valdez asks, how do you discipline yourself to not keep snoozing an email every time it notifies?
Well, Mr. Valdez, we all need to do something to earn our living. And I earn my living by not snoozing my emails. um, and yes, so I guess the fact that the person on the other side of the computer that is waiting for a response from me uh, pushes me so that I do not snooze their emails. Um, am I answering the question, or should I explain?
No, I think that answers the questions already.
I thought it was
Um,
just a joke. He was just trying to distract. You know Sony. You wanna
Gosh.
you wanna read the other one, Matt?
Um, yeah. No, that was really funny. Because I can do this next week, snooze, and the next week. Or maybe it's not just anyway. So That happens. Um, okay, so I think there's another thought here from Mr. Valdez. So for the schedule that you aspire, I thought he thinks that, like more hours is equals to more productive, or it equates to your own productivity, I think. Um, so I guess this is more like trying to extract your thoughts on this. Like, is more hours really equate to more productivity, granted your whole setup
More hours in, you mean more hours means
work?
more stuff on the calendar, you mean?
Uh,
More hours work.
I, sup-
Uh,
I suppose, like, yeah, scheduled anything work related activity, I
hmm.
imagine.
Okay. Okay, let me try to understand it. So I have my thoughts on this. More hours equals to more productivity. If it's more hours on the calendar equals to more productivity, that's not what I think. That's not what I think on the calendar, right? So a busy week and how I aspire. So a busy week with a lot of meetings don't really mean that I'm productive at something. It just means that I have a lot of meetings. Okay, so productive basically in the meaning of it is that you produce something of value. Having a lot of meetings, talking to a lot of people, don't really produce a lot of value until you can take action over them. So in order for you to take action of them, you need to read through, okay, what was discussed, then you need to write sponsors, write a proposal, and then you need to meet them to discuss it again, and finally you need to make them, or you yourself have to decide. So that the process of the other processes, right, is where you need to put effort in. And I think from an experience, what I will really am productive at is when I write things and make decisions on them. Those are the two things which take a lot of my time, and the decision making process usually equals to the amount of time that I spend writing and reading. So I see that I can make better decisions if I do more reading and writing. But it's not necessarily all the case because it all depends on actually what the subject matter is, in fact. But anyway, I'm sorry if I can't give like a direct answer on this, although I do feel I can't tell you exactly why, the sort of like the scientific reason about this, but I do not think more hours equals more productivity. Um, Case in point, Japan, for example, puts in the most working hours in, I think, in one of the top ones, the rest of the world, but its productivity is actually not the top, the highest, right? From a country perspective, from a global perspective. So you can see the relationship between hours and productivity. If you look at it from that perspective, it doesn't equal together. So I think what I feel, although I can't, like I said, I can't put it, backed by science, but statistically, it's heading in the right direction. I hope that answers the question.
Yes. Yeah, Mr. Velo thinks already, like just walking us through your thought process is already like very, very
A
good
great
insight
insight.
about this one. Yeah, especially that one, like yeah, uh, like more hours spent. It's really just using your time wisely, I suppose, rather than, like just um muscling through the
Yes.
the work. Um, but yeah, and definitely for someone in your position, I'd imagine, um, yeah, it's just not a productive use of your focus time to muscle through things. Since I think you kind of like have to see things from a different perspective now that you're like managing more and thinking about like the direction to take your business versus like the nitty gritty of things, I'd say.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I mean, I think we are going to be wrapping this up now. So, um, Miki, is there anything on our end that we wanted to announce? And then we'll also give the floor to Iqbal to kind of like have his own announcements or any message he wants to send in behalf of our audience.
Okay. On our end, I just wanna let everyone know that PyCon APAC 2022 is coming. Is happening on September 3 to 4 this year, 2022. I'm gonna send the link here, and also will update the YouTube video later with the details, but I'm also gonna send it here. So they started selling tickets, and also they want us to announce that that there's gonna be pre-events happening before the actual PyCon. So if you're thinking if you're gonna buy a ticket, is there gonna be a lot of value? Uh, since there are pre-events, I think it would be worth your time. So one of the events is like inspire young inspirers. I forgot the other one. But there's one of the events is young inspirers in the Python community. If you want to know more about this, click the link. But also next month we're gonna interview the actual organizers from PyCon Taiwan. Uh, uh, we're gonna interview them here at Work from Home Pythonista. So yeah, stay tuned for that. Then I'm gonna give the floor to Iqbal for his own announcements.
Thank you, Mickey. Okay, so I was thinking of how to say thank you to the people who have spent their precious time joining us today and listening to the small things that I have in my mind and interviewed by Mickey and Matt. So I thought this is just something which I've just thought of just before we started the call. As a sign of thank you, so we have two products. I would like to offer promotions to anyone who's interested in using Get OTP or Kafka in their work. So you can contact me via Twitter or LinkedIn or anywhere online and tell me the keyword. The keyword is Matt and Mickey, right? So you tell us that you've heard this during the call. The keyword is Matt and Mickey. I want to try out Kafka or I want to try out Get OTP for my work, and then we'll figure something out for you. We'll help you out, maybe give you a good deal on it. So that's one. And the second thing is, if you were on the call previously, I showed you Plum, the task tool that we are currently using. So that's not one of our products, so this is something internal. But we're always happy to let people try it out if they have a new project that they want. So see where the Plum fits with how they want to do work. So just tell me again, Matt and Mickey, and then we'll set you up with Plum. So Plum is basically free, so there's nothing cost to that. Just tell us that you want to try out, and I'll ask the team to set up accounts for you. So those are the two things that I have on my end.
Matt,
Oh,
do you wanna?
that.
Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, those are very. We just didn't had enough time, but I was really curious about the task tracker tool that you guys have built, and it's good that you are opening up the channels for people to try it out. So yeah, definitely check it out. I also like the whole principle behind it. So you just mentioned like we don't manage we manage tasks, rather the idea behind Plum, as you've mentioned, is that more than just having a list of the things that we need to get done. It's more about um, remembering why we did things a certain way, uh, why why we why we made such decisions, because it's more important really once you have a lot of things going on already and a lot of things happening all at the same time and people joining in at different hours. I can just imagine why you had to build your own task management tool. So for those who are thinking, like working from home, working in a remote setup, um, I'd very much want to look into Plum if if that is the case. So yeah, so we will be posting links, and we'll also be tweeting about what Iqbal has said, and then revert everyone who wanted access to Plum and the services that he also mentioned. So yeah, and before I let everyone go, let me just share my screen once more. Okay, so you can now see my application. All right, so those who are watching here on Zoom and also on YouTube Live and watching this also in the future, send us feedback. So this is our feedback form. We will be also putting this link on the description of the video. We'd like to hear your thoughts. How can we improve the show and whatnot? Okay. And then another thing. Um, so we also have a call for sponsors. So Python PH, this show, um, we are always looking for people who wanted to support the organization. If you're interested in sponsoring one of the shows, we've done so in the past. If you want to promote your business and, like if you do anything with Python and you want to reach out to the rest of the Python Philippines community, um, this could be a good platform for that. So if you're interested in sponsoring, check out these links or send us an email at info@python.ph or even just visit our website at python.ph. We'll also be posting the links on the video description below. But yeah, that's it. And thank you, Iqbal, again for your time. Um, it has been a very informative session. So yeah, and yeah, just
Thank you
happy
very
to.
much. Thank you very much
Thank
for
you again,
inviting me. I hope I gave some value for anyone who have joined us today.
for
Yeah,
sure.
definitely. We actually wish we had more time, but yeah, thanks for your time, Iqbal.
Yeah, hope to see you in person soon.
Yes, yes. Hope to see you in person soon. Yes, here, same here.
Okay. All right, that's it. Thanks for the show. That's the show.
And
Um,
thanks everyone for attending and for those who asked questions. Bye everyone till next month.
yes. Bye everyone. Right, I'm ending.
Bye, Ibar.
Right.
They're saying bye.